Yo, what's going? How you doing? Back at it, as always, Fiat Farming. And today, what do I want to talk about? So I want to talk about why you should be buying Bitcoin today. Or if you happen to see this video like a week, a month, a year later from this date, you should be buying Bitcoin today. It doesn't matter when. But specifically today, and I'm going to get into why. So right now, at the time of this recording, Bitcoin is testing its support around like 100K, and it crashed, man. It just crashed so hard. And I see this as nothing but a blessing, you know, because in all of my most recent videos, like you've heard me talk about, oh my God, I wish I could get Bitcoin at 100K. I wish we could get close to like 98K. If Bitcoin ever gets close to like 90K, I'm selling the car, I'm selling the house, I'm mortgaging grandma's teeth, right? But it's here. It's what we've been waiting for all along. Bitcoin at a nice and crispy 100K. That means today, if you want to buy 10,000 Satoshis, it's roughly like 10 bucks. If you wanted to buy one Bitcoin, it's $100,000. And why do I think you should be buying Bitcoin today? Well, everybody knows that Bitcoin's going to go up. Like, I don't think anybody disagrees with the fact that Bitcoin is going to go up. Like, the people who thought that it wasn't going to go up said that at literally every single price, you know? And I think it's just accepted that Bitcoin is just like a stock, like just like any other equity or any other stock, you know, it's going to go up. So from this point at the time of this recording, you know, what is the most reasonable price prediction for Bitcoin, you know? Like 100K, 200K, 150K, 175K. If you're buying Bitcoin today, you can easily get a 30% return, 20% return just off of the current established prices already. Like we've seen people like me are willing to pay $125,000 for Bitcoin. So if you can buy it today for $100,000, you can sell it back to me for $125,000. And the coolest thing about Bitcoin right now at its current price is the sentiment is so bad and so poor, but nothing fundamental has changed. Like usually, like with you know, the stock market, right? Somebody says something, they reveal some information, they're like, oh, we're not going to cut interest rates, or oh, it's a bubble, or oh, you know, Jamie Dimon says the sky is falling, right? And everything just crashes. But that's because that there's something going on behind it. We're getting new information saying like, oh, this company's Palantir shouldn't be this highly valued, you know? Palantir should not be trading at like a 300 PE, or, you know, stocks are expensive, or maybe some company did some fraud, right? And they lied about the numbers and they're not actually as valuable as people thought. But nothing has changed with Bitcoin. It's the same asset, the greatest asset that has ever existed, and nothing has changed. It's all pure sentiment. So why should you buy Bitcoin today? Well, in a previous video, my last video, I talked about, you know, stable coins, Bitcoin, AI, and all of that jazz, but it gives you so much optionality and leverage. On a recent video, I talked about how Bitcoin is kind of like a call option on your own life, you know? You, the person watching this video right now, you know how much money you make. If you were to go and work this week, this month, an hour, 10 hours, you know how much money you're gonna make. And you know that to a certain extent, it's fixed. Maybe if you're on commission, you know, it's a little bit different, but you have an idea of how much the effort or time that you spend is gonna be paid out in. But with Bitcoin, it's like a call option on your own life. So for me, say I make 20 bucks an hour, right? If I want to make $200, I have to work 10 hours. If I want to make 2,000 hours, I have to work like 100 hours, right? But do I want to do that forever? If I know that I'm in a position to where I'm only going to roughly make like 20 bucks an hour, do I want to do that for the rest of my life? Like every time I need to make $2,000, do I want to spend 100 hours of my time trying to do that? Heck no. But with Bitcoin, it's almost like a call option, you know? With what a call option is it gives you the right to buy, in the case of equities or stocks, you know, it gives you the right to buy 100 shares at the strike price that you order it at. So today, I'm buying Bitcoin at 100,000, which gives me about, you know, let's just call it 10,000 Satoshis for every $10. But I have a price target of Bitcoin well above and beyond $1 million. So I know that 10,000 Satoshis in those terms are worth about $100 if we just called it $1 million, right? So I might only be making 20 bucks an hour, but when I convert that into Satoshis, I'm making 200 bucks an hour. Now, it's not realized today, just like a call option. You don't get the profits or the rewards the moment you buy the option. You have to hold the contract until it appreciates or goes into the money. But with Bitcoin, it is your money. It's my money. Like, I don't hold US dollars at all. I don't think, like, I've been so broke and cash poor this week that it's honestly funny. Like I have like $6 right now. I think I have like $6 to my name, but the amount of calls that I have on my own time gives me peace of mind that I've never had before, you know? Like I don't have to worry about, you know, what my workload's gonna look like in the next 5 or 10 years, you know? I'm calling the time, I'm placing a call option on the time that I spend today for the future. I'm reserving the right to buy back my own time and freedom in the future for exchange and giving up, you know, some liquidity and energy today, you know? And I really encourage you, the viewer, to consider doing the same thing, you know, not because, oh, you know, Bitcoin's the best asset, which it is, or, oh, because Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 100 million, which it is, but it's giving you the right to say, hey, today, in today's time, I want to spend 5 hours, you know, doing chores for my parents, or doing some artwork commissioning for a client, or working at my job for a certain amount of time. But I don't want to have to spend this same amount of time doing this later on. So it gives you the right to buy back your time. Not today, not tomorrow, not later this year, not later next year, but deep into the future, deep into the future, you know, to the point where at some point, if you buy Bitcoin today in any amount, you're not going to have to work as hard to make that same amount of money, you know? Example, right? I think Bitcoin in the short term, within the next 6 to 9 months, is going to hit 150K, you know? So if I buy Bitcoin today with whatever amount of money that I have, I'm almost certain that I'm going to get a 50% return on that. Now, ask your bank. Are they willing to give you 50% return on interest for the money that you put into the bank over the course of a 6 to 9 month period? I think with one of my banks, Chase, they are willing to give you about 3 to 4% interest over the course of 4 to 6 months, but you have to have a minimum of 100K. So they're willing to put you in a position to where you can make $4,000, but at the same time, you have to have a minimum of 100K. Whereas I can buy Bitcoin today knowing that it's just going to go up and up and up and up and away, but I can get a ridiculous return in that same amount of time, you know? So, you know, if I put 20 bucks into Bitcoin today, later next year, it's going to be worth 30 bucks. And if I put 100 bucks in later next year, it's going to be worth 150 bucks, you know? And you just keep doing that. And the cool thing about Bitcoin is it's not like a fixed instrument amount. It's not like with Chase, you know, They want $100,000 up front to give you 4% over the course of like 4 to 6 months. You know, it's not like an actual call option where you have to pay the premium on that contract at whatever its price is, you know? Like, for example, I was looking at contracts on BM&R today, going out next week, you know, because I think BM&R is really cheap. And not only do I want to buy shares, I also want to buy calls on BM&R just so I can resell them for a profit. But each call option was like $80, you know? And like I said, I'm cash poor. So do I want to go out and make $80 to risk, you know, a volatile move out of BM&R going into next week? And for each call option that I would buy, it's $80, $80, $80, you know? So it can get really expensive to make those types of leverage moves in the market. You know, you got to have the money to spend up front. But with Bitcoin, you know, I can get a 50% return off a buck, you know? If I just say, hey, I've only got $5, boom, take it. If I got $20, boom, take it. And I can make multiple buys a day, and there's no Greeks, you know? There's no implied volatility. There's no deltas, you know? There's no whatever the heck there is, you know? So it's just a clean, straightforward call option on your own time. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pick up this order, and we're gonna get back to it. All right, I just picked up this order from Subway. We're gonna go ahead and drop it off, and maybe I'll end the video after that. So, where was I? Yes. You should be buying Bitcoin today, not because you think you're gonna get rich or you think it's a good investment, but because it's going to give you the right to buy back your time and freedom later. Now, one thing I really like about this whole setup is the inverse is also true. So, okay, Woad, okay, Pelagus, okay, Brian, you know, that sounds great and everything, being able to buy back my time and freedom, but what happens if I don't do that? Well, if anybody knows anything about stocks or options, educate you, the opposite of a call option is a put. And a put gives you the right to sell 100 shares of whatever equity at the current strike price. Holding cash is basically a put option on your own time, you know? Instead of you buying back your time, you're going to be selling your time later on. Now, why is this the case, you know? Well, inflation. So let's say I have got $100, right? I've got $100 sitting in the bank account. Big fat Benjamin. Now, next year, I know for a fact that $100 is not going to be the same in terms of buying power. It might be a note or a credit in my account that says I have $100 that I can spend, but I know for a fact that next year $100 isn't going to buy me what $100 will buy me today. So I know that in my personal opinion, with my assessments, I think the inflation rate here in America, just generally speaking, is close to about 10%. I might be off, I might be wrong, but that's what I think. So next year, if I want to have that same amount of buying power, the $100, as I do today, I'm gonna have to make an extra $10, you know? And I'm gonna have to keep doing that. I'm gonna have to keep expending my time, energy, focus, and effort to maintain my buying power. I'm gonna have to be selling my time back to the system so I can maintain the same amount of buying power. That's the opposite of Bitcoin. Bitcoin says, hey, you put your buying power in here today, it's going to increase later on, so you won't have to sell your time for value. Your time is valuable. It's valuable in a way that people can't properly appreciate. And it might not show itself right now, but later on in the future it will, you know? Like, I'm delivering an order right now. I don't even like the order. I think it's a very low paying order, and I don't even want to be doing it personally. I'm getting paid $6 for I think it's like a 9-mile drive, right? Which maybe like a 9 to 12 mile drive, and which is well below my requirements, but because of Bitcoin, you know, And because of the conviction that I have in Bitcoin, I might be making $6 off of this order right now. But in my personal opinion, I value this order at about $60 because I think Bitcoin's going to go well above $1 million one day. So if I make $6 today, in today's current price in terms of Bitcoin, I'm making 60 bucks. It would be a 1,000% return on my time, which is valuable. But does anybody really, like, the way I look at $6 right now is it's worthless. Like, I don't even want to be doing this order. I don't think that me making $6 is going to drastically change the course of my life. Like, I'd rather just be at home, like, watching TV or something, right? But because of Bitcoin, it's encouraging me to actually go out and make this money, because I know that if I put this money into Bitcoin, I'm not going to have to do the same process in the future because I'm buying back my time for a later date. Now, if I were to just hold this $6, it'll evaporate same day. It's going to go in the gas tank. I'm going to eat it. I'm not even sure if I could buy like a nice item with $6, but I can buy my time back. I can buy my freedom back, and that's good enough for me. You know, I don't need the sandwich. I don't need the t-shirt. I don't need the little bit of extra gas, but I'm more than happy to buy my own time back. All right, now for my next point. If you are a disenfranchised individual, whatever that means to you, you feel like for some reason that it's a little bit harder to make it just because the way you are, then you absolutely need Bitcoin. You need Bitcoin more than anybody else. You need Bitcoin more than anybody else if you believe that the system that you're living inside is rigged against you. Now, what do I think? Do I think I'm a disenfranchised individual? I mean, you know, like, I'm not going to go out on a wing and say that I have it harder than most people that live in America due to certain reasons that may or may not be obvious to some people. But, you know, I think I really need Bitcoin. Why? Because I don't see a lot of charitable handouts coming my way. I don't see a lot of life vests for me. I don't see a lot of just the once in a lifetime opportunities. Personally, I don't feel like I'm a lucky individual. I don't feel like things just go my way for my own sake, you know? With that being said, I know that I have to take extreme risks and work a lot harder than most people to be able to enjoy the same quality of life as most people. So for me, I absolutely need Bitcoin because I can't afford to deal with the issues that everybody else has on top of my own issues, you know? Like, I can't afford to have less opportunities than most people and at the same time be dealing with rising cost of living, inflation, and, you know, an ever-changing and evolving political and economic climate, you know? Like, I have my own issues on top of the issues that everybody else has, you know? I have my own concerns on top of the issues and concerns that everybody else has, you know? But Bitcoin allows me to take a lot of the stress off of myself and just focus on what I need to focus on, you know? Because I'm not worried about, you know, the cost of gas doubling or the cost of food doubling or whatever doubling in these next few years, you know? I'm using Bitcoin as a hedge against all of that, you know? And some people might say, well, Bitcoin's overpriced, it's reached its top, you're crazy for thinking that we'll ever see anything higher than its all-time high, right? And I mean, like, you know, it's a debatable opinion, but it's one that should be entertained. What if Bitcoin just never goes up? What if I buy Bitcoin today at 100K and for the rest of time, no matter what happens, it just only stays at 100K and I never get a return on my investment? That's totally fine. That's totally fine. Even if I never see 1 million Bitcoin, even if I never see 150K Bitcoin, a $200,000 Bitcoin in my entire life, I still get optionality. And this is the biggest part about Bitcoin that a lot of people seem to be forgetting, is that not only am I using Bitcoin as my money, if you wanted to send me a tip, if you wanted to send me thanks, if you wanted to buy something from me, I'm probably going to ask you to send it in Bitcoin, so it's used as money. You can send me Bitcoin, and I will. If you send me Bitcoin today and you want to buy something from my shop, I will send you the order tomorrow. No ands, ifs, or buts. It's a currency. It's my currency. It's my money, the money that I use. I don't use US dollars. I don't ask for US dollars. If I could never see a US dollar again, I would be totally happy. But getting back to my point, it gives you optionality. So look at this, right? Say you have $50,000 in a bank account, right? What can you do with $50,000 in a bank account? Let's see. You can buy something. You can do nothing and collect interest. And you can give it away, I guess. You see, I mean, like, what else? Like, what else can you do with $50,000 besides collect interest on it or buy something or spend it, you know? You can buy an asset, you can buy a shirt, you can put it in a bank account, savings account, CD, high interest savings account, and collect some interest on it. You might be able to loan it out to somebody. Hey, if you're a bank, you know, you can loan it to somebody and say, hey, I'll give you $50,000 at 17% interest. Just pay me back over the course of 10 years, you know? You can absolutely do that. But with Bitcoin, you get optionality. If I wanted to, I could go out and get a loan against my own Bitcoin. I could go to my broker and say, hey, I'm willing to put my asset up as collateral in exchange for US dollars. You can borrow against your Bitcoin. I can borrow money against my own money. That is a foreign concept that people really don't understand. You know, you can borrow against your house. You might be able to borrow against your car if you're driving this Lamborghini that's in front of me. Looks like a nice Urus. See, but no, I'm not gonna do that. But you can borrow against things. You can borrow against your 401k, life insurance policy, your stock portfolio. But you can't borrow against your own dollars. I can't take a $10 bill to the bank and tell them, hey, give me $1, you know? That's not how it works. They would look at me and laugh. They would literally look at me and laugh and tell me that's not how this works. That's exactly what they would say. But with Bitcoin, I can absolutely do that. I can do that right now if I wanted to. I could borrow against my stack today if I wanted to. Am I going to do that? No, I don't have a reason to do that, but I could. And that's the beautiful thing about it. It gives me optionality. You know, if I had $150,000 in Bitcoin, which I don't, but if I did, I could go to the bank and borrow against it and get like an extra $50,000, and the chance that I would actually have to ever pay that back outside of the interest is very, very low, you know? Like, I might never have to pay that back, and the interest rates would probably be really, really low. Now, that's the power that it gives you. On top of you having a call option on your own time, you're able to borrow against that call option. And it just gives you leverage, it gives you optionality, and most importantly, it gives you sovereignty, you know? I don't have to ask permission for any of this stuff, you know? I own it. I literally own it. You have $100,000 in a bank account, you don't own that money. It's not your cash, you know? It's a coupon. It's a credit. It's someone saying, I owe you $100,000, and I'm gonna give you a card to use it, you know? And if you ever wanna spend some of the money, you can swipe this card and it'll get spent, but you don't actually get your money back. You get the ability to use it as a form of credit. Now, why is it not your money? Because it's not there. The money that you put into the bank account is not there. It's gone the same day. You deposit. Oh, hey, and this I'm gonna go ahead and drop off this lovely individual his order. Came outside to meet me. Appreciate that. Alrighty, you know, I'm just gonna leave it running so y'all can see the process. All right. Hey, how's it going, boss?
Good, hey, good, man.
And just like that, you know, I'm more than happy to, you know, it is nice. It is nice. The cool thing about, you know, delivering food is that you get to see somebody smile. It's like, oh man, I've been waiting for this sandwich all day and I finally get to enjoy it and you brought it to me. Thanks, you know? It's like not a lot of jobs feel that rewarding in a lot of cases, you know? Not a lot of jobs give you that satisfaction of being like, hey, you know, I made a difference in someone's day today. But it gives you optionality. It literally gives you optionality, which is what wealth is really about, you know? Being rich doesn't mean that, hey, I can go buy this car. I can go to the club and buy my friends a round of drinks or a section, or I can buy this wine. It doesn't, being able to purchase something doesn't make you rich, or having a nice car or a nice home, or, you know, a bunch of ice on your wrist doesn't make you rich, you know? Being able to say, hey, if I wanted to stop doing everything, I can, and it wouldn't change my lifestyle, you know? If I wanted to stop working, if I wanted to stop posting content, if I wanted to stop growing my business, if I just wanted to stop, sit down, look at the stars, and do that for the rest of my life, I could do that. And the people who are in my circle, my family, you know, my kids, they will still be taken care of. That's wealth. Wealth means that you can take the exit ticket. It means that you don't have to take that order. You don't have to take that sale. You don't have to take the promotion, you know? You don't have to take on additional obligations or responsibilities just so you can make it through the next day, you know? Wealth is about having the option to say no, not being forced to say yes to literally everything. People who are broke, people who literally have nothing, have no opportunities, have no savings, or the people who say I have nothing but a yes for you, you know? If I call my brokest friend right now and I tell him, hey man, I'm gonna go make $60 and I could use an extra hand. All you gotta do is just help me out and we can split it 50-50. You get 30, I get 30. They're gonna say yes 100 out of 100, you know? Because they don't have any opportunities. They don't have the ability to say no, you know? They're gonna be like, man, come on, let's do it. Let's get this money. I'm the same way. Someone said, hey man, you know, come to my house, pick me up, drive me across town, and I'll give you $150. Absolutely. I'm taking that offer because I can't refuse it, you know? People like me don't have the ability to turn down requests like that. But Bitcoin gives you that option, you know? Bitcoin gives you the ability to take a leveraged position on yourself. Now, why should you be buying Bitcoin today, right now, as you're watching this video? Well, I don't usually talk about this stuff, but Bitcoin's going to just insane prices. It's going to... Fuck. Am I missing something? Oh, I was hearing like sirens around me. Okay, but anyway, why should you be buying Bitcoin today? Oh, there's a fire truck right there. You should be buying Bitcoin today because it's going to ridiculous prices. It's going to 100,000, it's going to 150,000, it's going to 950,000, it's going to $1 million, it's going to 1.5 million, it's going to 2 million. At some point, you will have to buy Bitcoin. Not because you want to, but because you are almost forced to. Ask yourself this. If all of the banks in the States collapsed, or the banks of your country collapsed, what would you do? How would you transact? How would you how would you receive and store and accept and send value to other people? You got to understand, holding government issued currencies is a huge risk. It's in the name, government issued. If your government fails, then all of the money that you have is worthless. It doesn't matter how much time you spent working for it. It doesn't matter how many dollars you have or how big the bank balance is. If the money system fails, you fail right with it. You fail right with it. So ask yourself, what happens if the banks collapse? We've seen it happen. It's happened. There are people who are alive today that will tell you that it happened. It already happened. Banks already collapsed. It was the Great Depression. And a lot of people lived through it. There are people still around today. I honestly think my grandma was alive to see it. She was alive during the Great Depression. I'm almost certain of it. Maybe she was either born into it or was alive to like at least see the after effects of it. And is that the last country that's going to collapse? Is that the last time banks will collapse in a nation? No, it's not, because not only has it happened once, it's happened countless times to multiple empires and civilizations over the course of history, and it is still happening at this very moment. It's happening. It's literally happening right now in some places around the world, and nobody's protected by it. Nobody is. So that's another reason why you should be buying Bitcoin right now. And now the reason why I'm buying Bitcoin today. Because geez, man, Bitcoin's already expensive. Like, I remember, I think I might have I remember back in like 2019, it was the first time I was on Robinhood and I saw Bitcoin. And I looked at it and I said, dang, $15,000 for Bitcoin? Man, that is crazy. That is absolutely, these guys want $15,000 for one Bitcoin. I was like, get real, bro. You guys are crazy. I think I had like between like $12,000 and $11,000 in an account at that time. Most amount of money I've ever had at one point. But I looked at it and I was like, bro, this is way too much. $15,000? I was like, I'm not doing that. And I just stopped looking. I think I bought Tesla, and then I think I actually bought Dogecoin. I think I actually bought Dogecoin and then lost like $300 or something stupid like that. My first experience with crypto was Dogecoin, and it sucked. I bought the top and I was down like 60% like same day. Like I bought it on the day that Tesla split, and if you don't remember back in like 2019, 2020, Tesla had that big split, and I actually bought Tesla and Doge, and it was my first time in the market. All I remember was Tesla was $1,000, and I bought some of it, and then the next day it was like $100, and I didn't realize that my shares had got split, so I just sold it thinking that I just lost like $900, because I had literally no clue what was happening, so I just bought it, and like literally the same day I bought it, it split, and I had like no warning. And then Dogecoin too. I literally bought the top and then was like instantly down like less than a couple hours later. And I was like, man, this sucks. And that was my first experience in investing. But look where I am today, watering my mouth that we are in a bear market on Bitcoin because it's 20% down from its high, which is like 126,000. And I'm aggressively buying it at 100,000. Like I'm gonna spend the whole day today probably buying Bitcoin just because it's at 100,000. Now, how much harder am I having to work for Bitcoin versus when I could have bought it back in 2019? I'm having to work almost 10 times harder to buy the same amount of Bitcoin. Back in 2019, you could buy 100,000 Satoshis for like $10. Now I'm lucky if I can get 10,000 Satoshis with $10, you know? Like I look at 10,000 Satoshis for $10 and say, give it to me, you know? But the reality is that once Bitcoin hits $150,000, I'm gonna have to spend 50% more time, effort, and energy to buy the same amount of Satoshis. if Bitcoin hits $1 million, I'm gonna have to spend 1,000% more time and energy than I would today to buy Bitcoin. So why should you buy it today? It's because it's a lot easier to buy it today than it will be in a couple of years or a decade, you know? I'd rather work 1,000 hours to buy 1 Bitcoin versus, you know, spend a decade to buy like 0.01 Bitcoin, you know? So buy it today so you don't have to waste I don't want to be a waste. Buy it today so you don't have to spend so much time to buy the same amounts later on. Like if you've got an account with $100 in it, put 10, 20 bucks in Bitcoin. Is that financial advice? No, but do it, you know, like do it so you don't have to spend $100 later to buy the same amount that you can today. It's literally a call option on your own life. All right. I mean, yeah, that's just how I see it, you know? Like, sure, you know, I could be buying stocks, I could be day trading options. SPY went down like 7 points today, and I could have just been in puts the whole way down and then quadrupled my money. I could just be day trading every day and just make a boatload of cash. But I understand that I can always day trade. I can always trade futures. I can always trade options. There's always going to be a stock that's running 50 to 100% on the day. That is always going to happen. But what's not always going to happen is someone willing to sell you Bitcoin. At some point, there's not going to be a lot of people who are willing to sell you their Bitcoin in exchange for your fiat currency. So I'm buying Bitcoin today because there are still people who are willing to sell me it. There's still the option for me to buy it. The buy button still exists, you know? But that's not always going to be the case. You can always buy shares of the S&P 500 and get a good return. You can always buy stocks. There's always going to be a new emerging technology that captures the world by storm. Even if you're not buying AI today, you can just buy quantum or robotics in the future. If you missed NVIDIA, QUBT. If you missed robotics, you know there's a bunch of up and coming robotics companies that are going to do phenomenal once robotics start taking off, maybe in the next decade or so. But there's not always going to be Bitcoin, you know. There's not always going to be Bitcoin, you know. So buy it today because this asset is going to go away at some point. There's not always going to be someone who's willing to sell it to you. And that's why I think you should buy Bitcoin today. Now, this is pretty much doubled for anybody who feels disenfranchised. So if you're like someone like me who feels like they don't have a lot going for them, or you feel like, well, let's say hypothetically, right? You're an undocumented immigrant, right? And you feel like, hey, in the future it's going to be harder for me to walk the streets if things keep up at the current rate that they're going, or, you know, I'm not going to be able to get a job because the restrictions for identifying people who are employed might become drastically more difficult, or with everything going on, the people who are hiring people like me who are undocumented immigrants might reduce my wage even more substantially because they know that the risk that they're taking by hiring me requires a little bit of I guess you could say compensation, you know. So if you're an undocumented immigrant, you know, you might not always be able to work a clean job to get paid. So what you should be doing is buying Bitcoin. So in the hypothetical case that the country is just demonizes you, you know, you have a hedge against that. You can say, hey, you know, I worked this year, I made like 30-40K, I made 30-40K extra, I put it in Bitcoin. Now, if things really hit the fan and people like me have it extremely hard, you know, you don't have to go out and find a job to make that same amount of money. Because I have a price target of $1 million. So if you buy $30,000 of Bitcoin today, For me, I'm going to tell you it's worth $300,000. And if you have $300,000 as an undocumented immigrant, you know, you're doing better than the guy who doesn't have that extra money and has to work a job and expose themselves to, you know, like immigration agents. I know it's a really touchy topic, but I want to explain it to people that I want to explain it to in a way that people can understand, you know. There are tons of people in this world that live in societies that do not have their best interests at heart. I'm not going to get into it because this isn't a controversial channel and it's not political. My beliefs are extremely radical, and they do not need to be voiced on public platforms like this that are specifically related to business, finance, and equities and assets, you know. If I ever want to make a channel where I rant about life, I'll just go do that and it will be a separate channel. But if you feel like you live in a place where it's rigged against you, you should not be holding the currency of the system that is rigged against you, because it's not working in your favor. You're not doing anybody a favor. You're not doing yourself a favor by holding the currency of the people who would want to either destroy or enslave you, you know? Like, it's just not in your best interest. And that's all I really had, you know. You should be buying Bitcoin today, especially at any price close to or near 100,000. And if you see this a year in the future and it's like 150,000 or 300,000, then you should still be buying Bitcoin. And if you somehow find this video a decade from now, 2 decades from now, and it's $1 million, you should still be buying Bitcoin, because the same thing still applies. You know, I saw Bitcoin at 15K and I didn't buy it, but I'm more than happy to buy it at 100,000. You're gonna see Bitcoin today at 100,000, but in the future, it's gonna be like $1 million, and you're gonna wish that you bought it at 100,000 and got the 10% return. Last thing, I was talking to some people, right? And you know, I think once again, it's accepted that Bitcoin has a tremendous amount of upside. People know this. Not a lot of people are gonna tell you that Bitcoin doesn't make people money. It doesn't make a lot of people a lot of money. But I was talking to some people and they were like, yo, I'm only gonna buy Bitcoin once it touches 50K, once it touches 60K. And those same people, they don't disagree with me when I say that Bitcoin has the potential to hit $1 million. From 100K to $1 million is still a 10x. From, you know, 50K to $1 million is like, I don't know, it's like a 50x, you know, it's like a 50x or like a 20x or something like that, right? But at some point, it doesn't matter, you know. If you have the potential to 1,000x your money, what's the difference between 1,000x and 1,100x or 1,200x or 2,000x? Like, bro, you're getting an insane return. It doesn't matter what number the percentage is. At some point, once you're making more than like 500% or 400% returns, the numbers are just ridiculous. Like, you don't need to make 100,000% on Bitcoin. You just need to make like 30, 40, 50%. You're still drastically outperforming most assets. And that's all I really had. So once again, if you're watching this video, go buy some Bitcoin for me. Or if you don't want to buy Bitcoin for yourself, buy one of my products and just pay me in Bitcoin. But that once again, if you enjoy this video, like, comment, and subscribe. We got more videos coming. If you want to subscribe, I really appreciate that. I don't have a lot of subscribers right now, so it would mean the world to me if somebody was actually interested in content like this. And once again, I invite you to join the Pelagus community. If you want to be around like-minded individuals who want to build sovereignty, build wealth together, and come together and form a community of talented and inspired people to try to, you know, better themselves, better each other, or just, you know, create something as a collective, then join the Pelagus community. We would be happy to have you. You are valuable, you are talented, you are special, and a lot of people might not tell you that, but I believe that. Come into the Pelagus community and we'll make something work. I believe that everybody has the potential to do something amazing. You just got to be around people who are willing to believe in you and also push you and hold you accountable at the same time. Pelagus the Sovereign. Let's get it.